Okay, missing quantities is where we start to see ratios becoming really powerful. So this is where we're mixing two things, for example, as a recipe, and we'll have a look at some more applications of this later on. So, an ingredient for a drink tells me to mix squash with water in the ratio of 2 to 9. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw myself a little diagram, and I'm going to give myself 2 boxes of squash, and I'm going to give myself 9 boxes of water. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are my 9 boxes of water. And this just helps us visualize my ratio. So in black I've got my water, in red I've got my squash. So in this first question, it asks me how much water do I add to 30 millilitres of squash? Well, if there's 30 millilitres of squash, that 30 has got to be split into those 2 boxes. So it must be 15 in each box. So I would have 15 in there, 15 in there. That gives my 30 millilitres of squash. And I would need to have 15 in each of those for water. So it gives me 9 times 15, which is 135 millilitres. And I can use this kind of diagram to help me do it. How much squash do I add to 450 millilitres of water? Well, in this question, I've got 450 millilitres of water, which I need to put into these 9 boxes. Well, 450 divided by 9 gives me 50. So in this case, I would have to put 50 in each box. Let's just check. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450. That is my 450 millilitres of water. So here I'd need 50 again in each box. Each box needs to contain the same number, 50 plus 50. So here it would give me 100 millilitres of squash. And that's how I would use this box model to help me work out the question. Now, a lot of you will find it easier to use the box model. If you prefer, you can do it by multiplication. So here I've got squash and water in the ratio of 2 to 9. So squash to water in the ratio of 2 to 9. It wants to know how much do I add to 30 millilitres of squash. I need to make sure that my 30 goes in my squash column. Now remember, I can only multiply or divide, I can't add or subtract. What am I doing to 2 to give me 30? Well, I'm obviously timesing. 30 divided by 2 is 15, so I'm timesing by 15. There we go, there's my timesing by 15. Do the same here. 9 times 15. 9 times 15 gives me 135. So the answer is 135 millilitres. Notice, whether I do it by using my box model, over here I got my 135, or whether I do it simply by multiplication, I should get the same answer. And you can use whichever of those 2 methods you prefer. How much squash do I add to 450 millilitres of water? Well, we saw using the box model I got an answer of 100. Let's see if we get the same using my multiplication method. So again, I've got squash to water in the ratio of 2 to 9. I've got 450 mils of water, so 450 goes in my water column. Thinking, how do I go from 9 to 450? Well, not such an easy question, so I'm going to just write out 9 into 450. 9 into 45 goes 5 times, 9 into nothing goes nothing, so I must be timesing by 50. Do the same here. 2 times 50 gives me an answer of 100, and my answer was 100 millilitres. And again, 100 millilitres using the box model, 100 millilitres using the multiplication tool, whichever one we prefer, up to us. Question 2 is a slightly more difficult question. Now, here it tells me 21 millilitres of squash is added to 140 millilitres of water. Okay, so I've got squash to water in the ratio of 21 to 140. Now, this wants me to get up to 1,500 millilitres of squash. Now, my problem here is that I can't see mentally how we go from 21 up to 1,500. So we're trying to spot something here. Some of you may have seen that is not given to us in its simplest form. So the first thing that we're going to want to try and do is get this into its simplest form. Well, what goes into both 21 and 140? Well, both of them are divisible by 7. So if I divide by 7, 7's into 21 go 3, 7 into 140, well 7 into 14 goes twice, so it's 3 and 20. Now it should be a lot easier, because 3 does go into 15, so 3 must go into 1500. 3 goes into 15 5 times, so 3 goes into 1500 500 times. So I've got to times by 500. So here, I'm timesing by 500. 2 times 5 is 10. 1, 2, 3 gives me an answer of 10,000 millilitres. Not a very sensible quantity, so I'm going to divide it by 1,000 and give it as 10 litres. Important point to note, you often have to simplify your ratio first before you can find your missing quantity. Okay, pause the video now, write down those worked examples, and when you're ready, press unpause to have a look at the questions set for you. Okay, so the first question here is a fairly simple missing quantities in ratio. Just make sure you set out your ratio correctly. For the second, you're starting to look at exam questions, as you are for the third. These are GCSE style questions, and these will be around the middle or middle to end of the paper. Pause the video now, have a go at them, and then we'll work through them together. Okay, so let's take a look at these solutions. So I've got red to green in the ratio of 3 to 5. I know that I've got 15 red, so my 15's here. So times by 5 gave me 15 to 25, so it's 25 green socks. B is 9 red socks because I've multiplied the ratio by 3. For question 2, the first thing I did, because I saw that this ratio could be simplified, was divide both by 50, which gave me a ratio of 7 to 3. So if I've got a ratio of 7 to 3, I've got 6 litres of blue. That means I must have multiplied by 2, so multiplied by 2 here gave me 14 litres of red. If I've got 7 litres of red, the ratio stays the same, it's 7 and 3. So in total I've got 7 plus 3, which is 10 litres of purple paint. Part C is a difficult question. So I've got my ratio of 7 to 3. First thing I need to do is work out, am I limited by the amount of red paint I've got, or by the amount of blue paint I've got? Well, if I looked at how much blue paint I had, I've got 15 litres, so I'd be multiplying the ratio by 5. That would give me a ratio of 35 to 15. Well, I don't have 35 litres of red, so my shortage is going to be I don't have enough red paint to use all the blue paint. So it's the red paint which is going to cause me my shortage. I need to go from 7 to my 30 litres of red paint. There's no easy way to go from 7 to 30, so I'm going to use a unitary ratio method. Divided by 7 gave me 1 to 0.43, times by 30 gave me 12.86 litres of blue paint. So using my 30 litres of red, I'd need 12.86 litres of blue. Together, that gives me 42.9 or 42.86, depending on how accurate you were, litres of purple paint. What's left over is my 15 take away my 12.86 is 2.1 or 2.14 litres of blue paint left. A tricky question. Last question, real nice problem solving question. I've got a ratio of 7 to 3. I've I've got 21 boys, so I've times by 3 to give me 21 boys. I had 9 girls. The ratio then changes to 3 to 5 after some girls arrived. I've still got 21 boys, so I'm still timesing by 7 to give me 21. There must now be 5 times 7 gave me 35, so there must now be 35 girls. So the change in number of girls has gone from 9 to 35, which is 26 additional girls. Okay, very well done.